My marriage story. I am 46 years old, and when I was 29, 1997, I got married with who I thought was the love of my life. She is now 40. We dated 2 years, but we knew each other for 5 years prior our engagement. Our life was great. We shared everything and rarely argued. Then in 1999 our daughter was born and we were the most happiest family ever. We both had a good job, so life was really great. But one day, after 10 years of marriage, 2007, my world collapsed. Starting from the year before, my wife started to be distant. Didn't want to do the usual things we did. Mentally absent. Sad. These are the things that I immediately noticed, and I tried to understand why. I asked and she just dodged the argument. I started to look at myself and I was wondering if maybe it was me who changed and did things that would disappoint her and take her for granted. Or maybe I wasn't treating her the way she wanted. I never imagined nothing else. Then she started going over a common girlfriend of ours who's also married. We knew each other prior our marriage and also with 2 daughters. One the same age as mine, 8, so I thought that maybe it was what she needed. My wife has never been a person that liked to party. So since me and my D8 loved to stay always together, she had time to meet and hang out with our friend. First it would have been twice a week, then every 3 days, then almost every afternoon. She seemed happier and so was I. But also, our bedroom time decreased from 4 times a week to 1, and even that once seemed that she would do me a favor. So now I started to get a little uncomfortable. And we talked about it. She was aware that things changed but told me that this is what she needs for now and to understand. So, that's what I did. I tried to understand and I did not put pressure, although it sounded very strange to me. So, one day, while me and my daughter were out shopping, I saw our common girlfriend with her 2 daughters. Since my wife told me that she was over her place, I guessed that they had a change of plans. Instead, when I asked, she said that she only had been with my wife once that week. I tried to show nothing of my emotions, but knowing that I was lied to from who was always loyal made me feel really bad. So that evening I asked my wife how her day was. Her answer was a lie. She said same things, been at girlfriend house, then went out with her for an ice cream. I looked at her straight in the eyes, showing nothing, pretending to believe her, knowing it was a lie. My inside feelings became mixed, and I realized that something bad was happening on my back. She saw the change on my face and asked. I was tempted to respond, but I didn't. I just said that I didn't feel good and left it at that. Back in 2009 I knew nothing about strategies 180 or anything to do about a situation like this. I was numb. So, when she told me that she was going to her friend's house, I said okay and I followed her. D8 was at my mom's house, and I had the day off and she didn't know it. Well, she arrived at our girlfriend's house, and then is when I was feeling to be a jerk, asking myself what kind of strange ideas I was having and how stupid I was. Meantime she rang the bell and went back to car. So, I stayed to see, and 1 minute after I see our girlfriend's husband come down real fast and get in her car. So, I decided to see what was going on. They took off and I followed them at a safe distance, just to see them go out of town, and I lost them. At that point I called our girlfriend and asked to meet her as soon as possible. She told me where she was and I picked her up. I explained what was going on in this past period and also what I did that day. I told her everything about the lies and what my gut was screaming at me. She was at first incredulous, but then thoughtful. And she said to me that they had a house in the country not so far out of town. I told her please let's go. When we got there, we saw her car. At that point all was clear. She was about to burst in, but I stopped her and asked if she had another key. She did. We parked where they couldn't hear us, and without talking got near the door. And as soon as we turned the keys, we have made noise. And at that point we heard panic inside but couldn't go in since they left the other keys on the inside. At that point all was discovered. Her husband didn't want to open the door and had no intention to face us. My wife was silent, didn't say a word, maybe to pretend she wasn't there. Too bad the car was. So, I convinced our friend to leave after almost 1 hour. Meantime she calmed down, agreed to go, telling her husband to never come back home. I had brought with me the extra pairs of the car keys and took off with it, leaving them on foot. We went to her place and tried to understand the timeline, the reasons and everything that was wrong. We were both upset. She wanted to go back, but I told her why. He needs to come back anyway, and also my wife. When I saw her calm enough I left, went to my mom's house to pick up D8, told my mom and dad what happened. They were shocked and told me to stay calm and work it out with her. But my dad knew that for me it wasn't going to happen. D8 didn't hear our conversation. So, then I started to think what to do. I was really upset and I continued to look at D8, wondering what would now happen. We got home, and wife was not there yet. 5 kilometers out of town is a little distant for walkers. So, I told D8 if she wanted to spend some time at my sister's house with her cousins, and she thought it was a great idea. I told her that mom and dad have a lot of work to do and she needed to stay there for at least 1 week, and she was okay with that. After I called my sister explaining in general what happened, I went over her place, told her the details. left D8 and went back home. My wife still wasn't back and her cell was off, but I tried only once to call. My cell started to go on with friends wanting to know what happened. My thought was that girlfriend spread the word. Since wife didn't seem to arrive, I had time to figure out what to do. I already knew that no matter what, things would never be the same. I started to cry knowing that I was done with her and how stupid she was for cheating. She knew very well that for me any type of R was out of the question, but I still did not know what to do in the meantime. I called in work saying I had problems, and they gave me 3 days to sort them out. So, having my D8 at my sister's, and having 3 days of free time, I needed to take action fast. For sure one of us had to leave in the meantime, since I would never be able in that state of mind to live with her under the same roof. And since I had a 1-bedroom little house also in the country too far, I decided to pack up all my stuff that I was able to fit in the car. While I was doing this, my wife shows up with my brother-in-law, which I get along very well. She was sobbing and desperate, and my brother-in-law was trying to be like an intermediary. I just told her that I needed to stay away for a while, and where D8 was, so if she wanted, she could see her at my sister's place. She was also okay for her staying there for a week. She started to say what she did and also why, but I stopped her. I said that I need to leave, and she can explain another day when we are all calm. Now it's useless, it would only enrage me, and my brother-in-law was also accord with it. I couldn't stand the sight of her and she saw it clearly. Then I left. The following day I went to the bank and separated all financial matters. I left her with more than half of our account. Then I went to my sister's to see D8. We stayed together for a while. My sister told me that WW passed by the evening before and they talked and she seemed to be very remorseful. I told my sister that I would never be able to forget, and that I am heading for D. She was disappointed, but in the end understood and gave me the number of a friend that was a lawyer, which I called and immediately went to that same morning. Meantime my cell was full of messages of WW. I explained to the lawyer everything, and he told me what was necessary to do, where I live. There was a law that stated that it was necessary a 3-year separation before D can be finalized. The separation needed to be notified by both, so now it was time to go back home and start it. When I arrived, W was in a total mess. As soon as she saw me, she broke out and wanted to hug me. I let her do it, but I didn't correspond, so she gently backed off and sat on the chair asking me to sit near so she can explain. I said to start talking, and I would not interrupt her, but she needed to say the whole truth. Also that I knew everything already, but I wanted to hear her version. She started talking about how she was feeling about 10 months ago. She knew my love for her was sincere, and that we had a good family that we wanted to enlarge, but she was not happy. She was depressed. She felt old ahead of time. Meeting her girlfriend, she started to see something more different. Then one day her girlfriend was not home, and so happened to be there her husband, who let her in, saying that his wife would be shortly back. They started talking and one thing led to another. She told him her problems, and he basically told her what she wanted to hear from a man's point of view. Things went like this for a while until 3 months before D-Day they kissed. Since the girlfriend was coming back, they left it at that but fantasized the following days about it. And that's when we became less intimate. It started as a physical affair 2 weeks after, and it went on like twice a week to become also even more the final month. Well, at that point I told her that even if it was a one-night thing I would never forgive. She knew that well. She said that she didn't want to do, and I said that I had already talked to a lawyer about it. She cried a lot but knew that for the moment that was the road for me to follow. I also told her that I will pack up other things I had and live in the country for a while. And we needed to show D8 less problems possible. My D8, no D14, has always been smart. She is the first in the class from elementary school. So it didn't take long before she realized what was going on. In the meanwhile, girlfriend kicked her husband out and also got a D going on. D8 wanted to know everything, and it was her mom who told her all. So, she decided that she will finish the school year with her mom and in the meanwhile wait for me to find a bigger house in town and then move in with me. EWW was crushed, and I felt very bad for her. The D process went ahead and I passed that following year totally lost. I never went back home, but we remained in good relationship with my ex WW also because she was trying to do all the right things. And I was also. But the time passes and also the 3-year period of separation did. I think that my ex-WW thought that I would consider R before finalizing D, but she didn't count on the fact that I might meet someone new. In the year 2010, last of 3 years separated, I meet this fantastic woman, and she knew my story. We dated, but nothing serious. I had still triggered, and she did not want to be the OW. But my D, now 11, enjoyed her company. They got along very well, and I started to see her differently. She started to become worried, only now she understands that I have no intentions to R. The day before going to court she once again tried to R, pleading for another chance to rebuild our family. All useless. The next day we finalized the D and I felt like a ton of bricks were off my shoulders. My ex said bye, and we catch up with each other with D11 activities. Meantime, me and wonderful woman, which I will call M, continued to go out together. In 2011 she moved in with me, and in 2013 we got married. We now have a 1-year son and we are very happy. My D14 loves her brother. She can't stay without him and helps a lot in the house. M loves me for who I am. She tells me every day how grateful she is to God for meeting me. My ex tried dating, but she can't find the happiness she is looking for. Good thing D14 makes her feel good. Wish my story will be helpful. But for sure I can say that for all the BS there is a light. The only thing important is to be honest with themselves. Honest to see if R is an option to try. Honest to realize if it's needed to move on. Honest to have the courage to decide for the well-being for all. A little bit info about myself. I am very passionate person and also jealous. But believe me when I say that for me there was no reason for not giving her trust. She knew I was like this before the engagement, so that's probably why she couldn't have a chance in R. I already had my blood pressure high when I saw him running out of the house and got into the car. But I kept telling myself there must be an explanation. Then I was in total shock when I saw the car parked in front of the country house. They did not have the courage to come out the house and my ex didn't say a word. So yes, I guess that she was in panic and in that moment only guilty. Then at my sister's house first and the next day with me she had a real heartfelt. And she showed it in every matter, only that I was cold-hearted. She knew it was over and tried every desperate way to get me back. As for the mind movies, well yes, that 1 year was hard. Sleepless nights, hard drinking just to fall out. Didn't want nobody near me. My family started to get worried. Honestly, I think I would have been gone if I kept up with that type of life. In that year the only thing I knew was that my ex had to be as far as possible from me. I never talked with her by phone, only SMS. She tried to come visit me but I had gotten a dog that was free in my property and she couldn't get past the gate. And I warned her to never try to come nearby. Then slowly I started to realize that I didn't deserve to live this way. And then my D14 came to me and said those magic words. I started to take care of the property. The small house, played to be a part-time farmer. Then I started to go out first in the afternoon, then in the evening. I started to laugh again. When I felt strong enough I decided to have a last talk with my ex. I had forgiven her and I wanted to let her know. That grew hope in her, but it didn't last too long, because now all I was seeing was someone which was not my wife. And that made me feel pity for her. So, that bad period with NC and terrible flashbacks were the things that made me strong and willing to live again. At 46 and with an almost 2-year-old baby boy I feel like I'm 29 again. When I first married, my current wife is 38, my ex is 40, I am 46. Yeah, 2 years younger. And for who is asking him, herself, yes, she is hotter. And no, I wasn't looking to find a new relationship. I just started to relive again. It all came naturally. I guess living happy makes you look good. Story 2. Being happy alone. I am a 42-year-old man who is married to a 51-year-old woman. We have been together for over 20 years and have no children. We met when we both worked in the same grocery store. We had been together, but not married, for most of that time. We only got married 6 years ago this fall. She had been ill with a muscle disease, fibromyalgia, while we were dating and has been on disability for many years. She was not petite when we got together, but not what I would call heavy either. Now she is morbidly obese and has been for a number of years. I have been telling her for years to lose the weight. Besides complicating her fibromyalgia, she has sleep problem and has developed high blood pressure recently. Besides all of that, it has totally ruined my desire for anything physical. We have not slept together for over a year. When we talk about it, actually, when I try to talk to her about it, she promises she will get better with her eating habits. Which suck, but it never happens. She has tried eating healthier a few times, but it never lasts. She does not keep our home clean. It is always junky and dusty with dog hair on the carpet. If we are having company around the holidays, I end up doing the majority of the cleaning. What I call marathon cleaning. If someone does happen to drop in, which does not happen that often, I am mortified. I understand that she is sick, but she is not bedridden by any means. I think a lot of it is laziness. She used to cook all the time. Now, the majority, 75%, of our meals are either processed, frozen or boxed. I have even gained some weight because of it. I do not deny that I have my own faults. I have been lazy for the past year or so with repairs. Improvements around the house. I chalk it up to being depressed about the whole situation. I also have a thought in the back of my mind, and I have told her, why should I paint and make it look nice when the house in a mess? I find myself wondering if I have made a 20-plus year mistake. I sometimes, well, a lot of the time now, think that I would be happier if I was on my own for a while. However, the thought of divorce scares me. This is my first marriage, her second. I only make $40K a year and she only have her disability payments. The state we live in is no fault, so she would get half of my 401 Kelvin. I also worry about trying to sell our modest ranch house in this market. I also don't know if I would have to pay her spousal support. It's a lot to think about. It seems overwhelming to even consider. And, despite how bad things are, I would worry about how she would make it on her own. Money is tight the way it is between the mortgage, car payment, insurances. She has seen a psychiatrist and therapist for years and years. I do not. I went once with her but am not a therapy person. It was essentially all about the bedroom issue. I am one that tries to avoid confrontation and spare feelings. I danced around it, but could not come right out and say, "You got fat and I don't find you physically attractive anymore." I'm sure she knows it though. She knows things are not right, for sure. I have talked to her about the weight until I am blue in the face. Around Easter, I actually told her that I have been close to giving her an ultimatum once or twice. She didn't ask what that would have been, but I assume she knows what I meant. Still, it's all empty promises. I never thought that I would come to resent her and feel trapped in a marriage that I no longer want to be in. Unless things change, which I doubt, I don't know that I can last much longer. I am so torn between thinking that I would be so happy without all of this stress and the nightmare that going through it would be. Money is so tight right now that I can't see how either of us would survive on our own without living with a relative. And selling the marital house right now would also be hell. I think we'd probably be upside down in it. Not due to second mortgages or anything. Just the market. It's certainly a lot to think about. 3 months later update. She sees her for depression issues. She also claims a diagnosis of schizophrenia from her psych. I have only been to 2 sessions with her. One was for when she was dealing with sexual harassment at our place of employment, where we met. The other was for our intimacy issues. The latter was years ago, which shows how long this has been going on. I don't know that she blames others for her problems. Maybe in a roundabout way. She claims that she started getting heavy to protect herself from male relatives, both stepfathers, who showed interest in her. I have tried telling her that she is married now and they are both long gone. She doesn't need to do that anymore. She acknowledges it, but then goes into how hard it is to lose weight. I can now throw it up in her face that smoking is too, and I quit cold turkey at the end of September. She still smokes. I have taken matters into my own hands since 3 months ago. I shared what I am going through with my sister who lives out of state, and she has seen the things I have. I have an appointment scheduled with a therapist on Friday after work. I told the W about it and she started with questions right away. "Why are you going?" I told her because of the issues I have been dealing with for years. Her weight, intimacy issues, her not taking care of the house, etc. She asked if I would tell her what happens during the session. I told her that I would tell her how it goes, but not what was discussed. I told her that I need to work on me before I can work on us. She then asked to ask me another question and I cut her off and said no. One extra story. We got married 9 years ago. It was an absolute blessing and we have been superbly happy together. We have always been seen as the perfect couple. Her parents were absolutely supportive to us, even though we were from very, very different background. She is of Asian descent. The first in her family generation to get married, and that to a non-Asian person. Nothing to fear, absolutely confident about our future. We both live very far from our family, hers in Asia, mine in Europe, and we are in Australia. This was all good as long as we trusted that the other will always be there no matter what. When my mum got very sick, I was not inclined to move back to Europe because I had my lovely wife by my side. Back in January, after spending 2 months between Australia and Europe to help my dad, sister getting over my mom's passing, I became close to a work colleague of mine, a woman. The relationship was very professional and we never saw each other apart for work during working hours. But we had mutual interests and I felt strongly about our friendship. Meanwhile, my wife was still struggling to find a job, global crisis, in Australia, and was clearly needing me to support her. I wasn't there. I was buried at work where things were easier, enjoying for the first time in my professional life the support of my colleague. My wife didn't approve of this work relationship and told me that my female colleague was flirting with me. In all honesty, I had not noticed, but, in all honesty, I didn't really act on it. My first mistake. It was flattering, and from where I stood, this person was the only one not needing anything from me but giving me a lot. In February this year, I went with many other people of my work to a conference and came back a day after the planned return. My second mistake, I lied to my wife telling her that I was going there with a male colleague when in fact it was that woman flying there and back with me, different teams of the company joining at different time. Meant I was traveling just with her. Nothing happened that was not purely professional except that I discovered my female work colleague was after more than I thought, hence the delayed return, sorting things out. I did question myself whether I wanted more but reached the conclusion that I was happily married to the most wonderful person in the world. My wife knew, they always do, that I lied, but did not talk to me about it for some time. It just bugged her in silence until she insisted and insisted. I was scared to tell her, coward to admit that I had questioned my marriage and had not acted when she asked me to. My third mistakes. I finally gave in and told her everything. After many late nights discussions, she left Australia to travel the world for 3 weeks, hoping that this will give her some clarity. She came back this week, wearing her wedding ring on the wrong hand and telling me she wants to move out. She doesn't want to decide for how long, just to be on her own, in a different place. Our place is great but has little light, not very uplifting. She says, quite rightly, that this has shown that I won't necessarily be there next time things are tough for her. She had the toughest time, right when I was at this conference. She says my action has shattered the trust she had. She knows I am not to repeat the same mistakes again but that she needs to decide whether to give us another chance. I fully understand and take full responsibility for all of this. I tell her that I understand and that I respect her decision. If she feels like some time off is best for her, then I am ready to give it to her. But at the same time, I don't want her to think that I don't give a damn about whether she moves out or not. I truly think I have been a complete idiot. I have flirted, went too far, even though nothing physical. Nothing at all happened. I have lied to the most important person to me. Since then, this person has left the country. I have cut all ties with her. Delete her entirely from anything. Offered my wife all my passwords. Told me wife the whole truth all the time since then. She says she knows I won't lie to her again. But I wasn't there when she needed me. It has been a tough year for me. My mom's passing, followed by my mom's mom with whom I was close, followed by 2 close friends of mine. And for her, a year unemployment, followed me to a new country. Let her friends and support behind and her husband, me, not there for her. Should I support her idea of moving out, clearing some space, giving her time? But what if? She is the future mother of my children. She is all I have in fact. She has been online looking for apartments but found it hard. Since then, there has been few signs that she is not in rush. I have given her some space this weekend, and she has been out meeting friends. We are off to the movies tonight. I am not going to talk to her about moving out. I am stepping up at home, being the nicest husband, trying to let her breath. My wife still wants to move out. She is even talking about going back to her last trip destination where she says she met some real genuine people that make her feel loved and worthy. But she has not moved out yet. In fact, she has barely searched for an apartment, as far as I can see, and is still making up her mind. She hasn't decided if she wants to give me another chance and says this is not her priority at the moment. Her priority, she says, is to take care of herself and learn to love herself again. She is still living in the house, but says she hates it, while doesn't really want to talk to me or engage anything that involves both of us. We still sleep in the same bed, but I go to bed and she tends to wait until I'm fast asleep to come up. Yesterday, she told me, in fact kind of asked me, if she could take her wedding ring off to lift the weight, burden and suffocating it brings her. She said yesterday that she now waits for the right time to resign from work and go to Nepal for a year. I fail to see how this is going to help us, but she insists I keep putting money aside on our saving account to which only she has access. The wedding ring has left her fingers this weekend. A month later, I suggested last night that since she is truly unhappy, and for her to be happy was a priority, and since I love her, she should go back home, stay with her brother and figure things out. I said that if in a month, or 2, or 3 home is indeed the best place to live, then we'll talk about moving back. I stress the fact that there is no pressure, no decision to make now, and that she'll know where I am in the meantime. I love her and tell her I'll be there. She thanked me and said she'll think about it. I feel this is a good outcome. It will cost me, but I don't care much about that. What I want is break this miserable status quo for both of us. My comment. Hope you guys like these short ones. I'm going to out for a quick brunch and come back to prepare more stories for you guys.